Jax Orion had spent most of his life around broken ships. He loved them. Where others saw trash, Jax saw opportunity. A rusted hull might hide a working engine. A forgotten ship might still hold cargo worth a fortune. So when he saw the Vigilant Dawn listed for sale at a price cheaper than a small shuttle, Jax knew he had to see it for himself. The freighter drifted near an old trading post at the edge of the system. Its hull was scratched and burned, but its frame looked intact. No one had claimed it for centuries. The listing said the ship had been abandoned more than 200 years ago. 200 years, Jax muttered as he brought his own small ship close. Whatever's in there is dust by now. Still, his heart beat faster as he docked. Buying an old freighter was always a gamble. Some were empty shells. Some still had power and secrets hidden inside. Jax boarded through the airlock, flashlight in hand. The smell of stale air and rust hit him. Dust floated in 0G. The hallways were silent except for the faint hum of emergency power. He expected to see broken pipes, leaking coolant, maybe a rat or two if the life support had been working in the past. But the Vigilant Dawn was strangely clean. He made his way deeper into the ship, checking rooms as he went. Crew quarters were empty, their beds still made. The mess hall still had trays on tables as if people had left in a hurry. Finally, he reached the cargo bay. That was where he saw it. At the far end of the bay stood a massive sealed door. It was not like the other doors in the ship. This one was smooth, metallic, and glowed faintly with blue lines forming strange patterns. It looked completely untouched by time, as if someone had just built it yesterday, and standing in front of it was a machine. It was tall, at least twice Jax's height, with 4 legs and a body shaped like some kind of predator. Its head split into 3 glowing visors that turned toward him the moment he stepped inside. Jax froze. The machine did not move closer, but it didn't back away either. Its 3 glowing visors studied him silently. Jax slowly raised his hands. Hi?" he said, half joking, half terrified. The machine tilted its head. Then a deep, metallic voice echoed in the bay. "Identify," Jax swallowed. He had heard stories about this type of machine. They were called Cerberus units, wartime guardians designed to protect something until their mission was complete, even if it took centuries. "I'm Jax Orion," he said carefully. "I bought this ship. It's mine now." The machine did not move. Its visors flashed once as if it was scanning him, then it spoke again. "Access denied. You are not authorized." Jax stepped back slowly. "Okay," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm not here to fight you, I just want to know what's behind that door?" The Cerberus said nothing. It simply stood there, blocking the door. Jax backed out of the bay and closed the hatch behind him. His heart was racing. He had seen security drones before, but nothing like this. Back in the control room, Jax sat in the captain's chair and opened the freighter's computer logs. Most of them were corrupted, but he found a few that still worked. The ship's name was listed, its route history, and its final mission. The Vigilant Dawn had been part of a classified fleet operation nearly 500 years ago. No details about the cargo were included, only that it was to be delivered to a secret location. Jax leaned back in the chair. "So that's why this ship is still here," he whispered. "Nobody could get past that thing." He smiled a little. This was no longer just a salvage job. This was a mystery. He spent the rest of the day exploring the rest of the freighter. The engineering deck still had some power, and the engines looked like they could be repaired. If he fixed the ship, he could tow it to a safer location and study it at his own pace. But every time he passed near the cargo bay, he could feel the Cerberus watching him. The machine did not attack him, but he knew if he tried to open that door by force, it would. That night, Jax sat in his small bunk and recorded a message for himself. "Day 1 on the Vigilant Dawn. I expected rust, dust, and empty cargo holds. Instead, I found a sealed door guarded by an AI war machine. If this is what I think it is, there might be something valuable behind that door, something important enough to guard for centuries." He paused, then added, "I'm not leaving this ship until I find out what it is." The next morning, Jax returned to the cargo bay, more confident this time. The Cerberus was still there, standing in the exact same spot. He walked closer, stopping just a few meters away. "I don't suppose you can tell me what's behind that door?" he asked. The Cerberus did not reply. Jax grinned. "Figures. Guess I'll have to find out myself." That day he began pulling files from the freighter's databanks. searching for anything that might tell him how to unlock the door, or at least how to disable the Cerberus. What he found only made him more curious. The door wasn't listed on the freighter's schematics. It was like it didn't exist. Whatever was hidden back there had been meant to stay hidden, but Jax Orion was not the type to walk away from a mystery. This ship was waiting for someone, he told himself as he stared at the sealed bulkhead late that night. The Cerberus stood there silent, patient like a statue. Jax smiled. And maybe that someone is me. The next morning, Jax Orion woke with one thought in his mind. That door. He ate a quick meal, then went back to the freighter's control room. His goal was simple: dig through every bit of data until he found something useful. The ship's systems were old, but Jax had patience. The files were slow to open, most of them locked behind military encryption. Still, Jax had worked on enough old ships to know a few tricks. By the end of the day, he had pieced together fragments of the freighter's final log entries. They spoke of a secret mission, a cargo vital for the survival of the human colonies, and an emergency order to seal the bay until an authorized officer could release it. Jax leaned back in the chair, thinking. Authorized officer, he muttered. That means there has to be some way to prove identity. A code? A password? Something. He decided to check the cargo bay again. Maybe the Cerberus had more to say. The Guardian stood exactly where he had left it, still blocking the strange door. Jax walked closer and held up a small data tablet. I know you can talk, he said. You asked me to identify myself yesterday. How do I become authorized? For a long moment, the machine was silent. Then, to Jax's surprise, its three visors glowed brighter. Genetic authorization required, the Cerberus said in its deep metallic voice. Jax blinked. Genetic? You mean blood? Confirmed, the Cerberus replied. Jax took a step back, his mind racing. If this ship had been waiting for someone for 500 years, did that mean it had been waiting for a specific family line? He pulled out a small portable scanner he kept for medical checks and pricked his finger. A single drop of blood fell onto the scanner's plate. Within seconds, the device displayed his genetic ID profile. Let's see if this works, he whispered, and uploaded the data to his tablet. He walked forward and held the tablet toward the Cerberus. This is me, Jax Orion. The Cerberus scanned the tablet, its visors flashing. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then the machine spoke. Partial match, further verification required. Jax frowned. Partial? So I'm close but not perfect. The Cerberus did not answer. It simply went silent again. Jax returned to the control room frustrated but more determined than ever. If his DNA was a partial match, then he had a connection to whoever had owned this ship centuries ago. He called for help. Lyra, an old friend and one of the best cybernetic engineers he knew, arrived 2 days later. Her ship docked with the Vigilant Dawn and she stepped aboard, looking around with raised eyebrows. This thing is ancient, she said, brushing dust off a wall panel. Yeah, Jax said, and it's guarding something big. I need you to help me talk to that Cerberus unit. Lyra's eyes widened. Wait, Cerberus? You mean one of those old war AI guardians? Jax nodded. Exactly. And it's still online. It says I'm a partial genetic match for whoever it's been waiting for. I just need you to help me figure out what it wants, Lyra smiled. You had me at AI Guardian. Show me. When Lyra saw the Cerberus, she whistled softly. I've only ever seen one of these in a museum, she said. I can't believe it still works. She connected a portable console to the nearby wall interface and began running diagnostics. This thing's programming is complex, but I think I can access its query logs. If we know what data it's checking for in your DNA, we might be able to figure out what you're missing. Hours passed as Lyra typed commands, cross-checked results, and bypassed layers of security code. Finally, she smiled. Got it. The Cerberus is looking for a specific genetic signature, a chain of markers that matches the captain who sealed the door. You're about 70% match. That means you're likely a distant descendant. Jax's eyebrows went up. So whoever commanded this ship is basically family? Lyra shrugged. Looks that way, which means you might actually have the right to open that door. Jax's heart beat faster. So what do we do? Lyra grinned. We convince the Cerberus you're close enough. It's programmed to accept descendants if the original officer never returns. I can build a genetic confirmation file that uses your markers and fills the missing pieces with verified data from the ship's records. It took another full day of work, but finally Lyra handed Jax a data chip. This should be enough to get the Guardian to accept you, she said. If it doesn't, well, I hope you can run fast. Jax laughed nervously but took the chip. Together they returned to the cargo bay. Jax stood in front of the Cerberus, his hands sweating. This is it, he muttered. He slotted the chip into his tablet and sent the data. The Cerberus scanned it. Its visors glowed brighter and brighter until the entire cargo bay was bathed in blue light. Then, for the first time since Jax had boarded the ship, the machine moved aside. Access granted, the Cerberus said in its deep voice. Welcome, authorized personnel. Jax felt his breath catch. The glowing door behind the Guardian hissed as hidden locks disengaged. A rush of cold, stale air escaped as the door slid open, revealing darkness beyond. Lyra's eyes widened. Well, she whispered. You got what you wanted? Jax stepped forward, heart pounding, and shone his flashlight into the hidden bay. What he saw made him stop in his tracks. Rows of shapes stretched into the darkness. Smooth, glass-covered pods lined up in perfect order, and inside the nearest pod was a person. Jax turned to Lyra, speechless. They're not cargo, he said slowly. They're people. Lyra's voice was quiet. Stasis pods. These people have been sleeping for centuries. Jax looked back at the rows of pods. Why were they locked away? And why was this ship abandoned? Lyra shook her head. I don't know, but I think we just uncovered something very, very important. The Cerberus stood silently behind them, its mission finally complete. But Jax had the feeling this was only the beginning. Jax Orion stood frozen at the edge of the sealed bay. The rows of stasis pods stretched out like a field of stars, each one glowing faintly. The people inside looked peaceful, their faces calm as if they were only sleeping. Lyra slowly walked forward, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. This is incredible, she whispered. Jax, do you know what this means? These people might be from before the collapse. They could have knowledge humanity thought was lost forever. Jax nodded, still staring at the nearest pod. The man inside wore a uniform unlike anything Jax had ever seen. Dark, formal, with a patch that had the same symbol he had seen on the freighter's logs. The Cerberus stood silently at the door, its glowing visors dimmer now as if its purpose was fulfilled. What do we do? Jax finally asked. Lyra knelt next to a control panel near the first row of pods. The life support system is still working, she said. But waking them up after 500 years isn't simple. Their bodies will need time to adjust. We should choose one pod, wake one person, and see what happens. Jax hesitated. If he woke them, everything would change. These people could be soldiers, leaders, or scientists from a different time. They might not even trust him, but walking away was not an option. Do it, he said. Lyra carefully entered commands into the console. The pod nearest to them hissed softly, steam escaping from its edges. The glass cover slowly opened. Inside, the man took a slow breath, his chest rising for the first time in centuries. His eyes fluttered open. He looked confused but alert. Jax stepped forward, hands raised. It's okay, he said gently. You're safe. The man sat up, blinking at the strange surroundings. He studied Jax and Lyra, then looked around the bay. This ship. His voice was hoarse but strong. How long? Lyra glanced at Jax, then said softly, About 500 years. The man's expression was calm, almost unsurprised. He climbed out of the pod and stood tall. I am Captain Elias Kale, he said, his voice steady. And you are? Jax Orion, Jax said. I found this ship. I unlocked the door. Captain Kale nodded, as if that was exactly what he had been waiting to hear. Then the mission is not lost, Kale said. Jax frowned. Mission? Kale gestured to the rows of pods. These are the last survivors of Fleet Group 7. When the collapse cut off the colonies, we were ordered to preserve what knowledge we had. Science, maps, history, and wait for a future generation to find us. Lyra's eyes widened. You mean this ship is carrying the lost records of the old colonies? Kale nodded. And not just records. These people are navigators, scientists, engineers. The knowledge they carry could rebuild entire worlds. Jax felt a chill run down his spine. He had found something far more important than salvage. Why did you need someone with my DNA to open the door? Jax asked. Kale studied him. Because this ship was locked by my order. Only those of my bloodline could be trusted to open it. You must be one of my descendants, Jax blinked. You're a descendant? Kale smiled faintly. Seems so. Which means you are the one who decides if our mission continues. Jax felt the weight of Kale's words settle on him. He looked around at the sleeping faces in the other pods. If he woke them all, it would change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy, the control of knowledge, even the future of humanity itself. He took a deep breath. If we wake them all, what happens next? Kale looked him straight in the eye. We finish what we started. We find the lost colonies. We unite them again, Lyra smiled. That sounds like something worth doing. Jax hesitated only a moment longer, then nodded. Let's wake them. One by one, the pods opened. The bay filled with the sound of breathing, coughing, and quiet voices as people awoke from centuries of sleep. Jax and Lyra helped them stand, guided them to chairs, and explained what had happened. Some were shocked. Some cried. But most of them listened calmly to Kale, who stood like a commander addressing his crew. You have slept for centuries, Kale told them. The galaxy has changed, but our duty remains the same. Today we begin again. Over the next few days, the freighter came alive. Systems were repaired. Engines were tested. The newly awakened crew worked with focus, restoring the ship as if they had never left it. Jax walked the halls in awe. He had bought this ship thinking it was just another derelict, but now it was a living vessel, full of people and purpose. The Cerberus still stood guard at the cargo bay entrance, but now its visors glowed softly, almost peacefully. Its mission was complete, but it seemed content to remain as protector of the crew. Lyra joined Jax on the bridge one evening. So, Captain Orion, she said with a grin, what's next? Jax looked out at the stars. For the first time, he felt like he truly belonged on this ship. We find the lost colonies, he said. If we can bring humanity back together, maybe we can stop history from repeating itself. Lyra smiled. Sounds like a big job, Jax nodded. Yeah, but I think we're ready. As the Vigilant Dawn's engines roared to life, Jax felt a thrill run through him. The freighter was no longer just an abandoned relic. It was a ship with a mission, and he was part of that mission now. The stars stretched before them like an endless road. Set a course, Jax said. Let's see where this road takes us. And as the ship jumped into faster-than-light travel, Jax Orion couldn't help but smile. What he had found was not just a mystery. It was a beginning.